You're watching Capitol View, Sunday morning talk focused on the political scene in Arkansas.
And welcome back to Capitol View. I'm David Goins, joined by my co-host Roby Brock, and our political long table this morning, State Representative Jett from Northeast Arkansas. Success, one of the best names in all of the state of Arkansas. And State Senator Johnny Key from Mountain Home. Gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us this morning.
Thank you for letting us be here.
You, David.
Mountain Home sounds cozy too, so I'll give you some props on that as well. So let's talk about the special session wrapped up, obviously, a little after midnight on Friday night, Saturday morning, however you want to split that right there. You guys talked about, you came up with a solution in the short term to shore up this teacher insurance, this public school employee insurance fund. You came up with some plans for the long term too. Let's talk about the long term. What did you really accomplish in the long term, Senator Key?
Well, the long term is, the framework now is in place for that long term improvement that we need to the system. And we found pretty quickly in the work leading up to the session that the long term solutions could not be put into legislation and enacted in the time frame we had with which to work. So we put
what
together,
was the problem with that necessarily?
well, there are, we'll take one good example is copays. You know, there were members who wanted copays added for the 2014 plan year in the gold plan. You know, we have a gold, silver, and bronze plan in these plans, and they wanted a copay because right now the gold plan does not have a deductible, rather, it has copays that it doesn't have a deductible. So they wanted to add a deductible to that. Had we done that, it would have required a complete rebidding of all the plans and would have delayed insurance coverage until February or March. So we couldn't add the deductible now, is just one example. And many other things that as we got into it, we realized we need a larger group working on a longer term outlook to come up with the true fix that we'll be implementing down the road.
You like the solutions that you came up with, Representative Jett?
Yes, without a doubt. And then I'm going to brag about my colleague here, Senator Key. He worked diligently. This was not a partisan issue. It was a bipartisan issue. We just come together and recognize the fact that our teachers needed help. And Senator Key went beyond the call of duty, and he kind of herded cats, if you will. And then Representative Wren and Representative James McLean and Senator Rapert stepped up. So hats off to those guys.
Yeah, Representative Jett, one thing that the one bill that you were at least prepared to present on Friday, didn't actually have to do it, was this uniform rate of tax, URT. Essentially it's a property tax. Didn't happen. Were you surprised at all with the way it went down on Friday, and more so, where do you think it goes from here?
Well, I think right now, I mean, it's pretty much dead until my colleagues want to take it back up, maybe back during regular session the 90th. You know, when we went into this thing, we're counting votes. We knew it was going to be really, really close. On the House floor, I can't speak for the Senate, but on the House floor, you know, we're looking at 50-50 votes at best. So we knew it was going to be really, really close. So we brought it to the table in House Ed and had enough of my colleagues to table it. And then after dinner, after lunch, we come back and try to get it off the table and try to run it again. But I would say this, at the end of the day, our process worked. I mean, people come together. I found out on this issue is a lot of passion because people think at the end of that they think at rural schools in rural Arkansas is the foundation of their communities. And so when you start talking about messing with your foundation and your communities, passion rose, and it rose quickly. And but at the end of the day, when we debated it and trying to get it off the table, it was just one of those things that the process worked. I'm proud of my colleagues for standing up and fighting for their beliefs, and I think maybe Washington can take a strong look at what we did here today.
Senator Key, I get the sense that everyone was more or less okay that maybe it didn't get done right now, but certainly just from the Senate Education Committee meeting on Thursday, there is acknowledgement that something needs to be fixed in this respect, right?
Anyone who observes the history of education funding in Arkansas, you know, starting with, you know, back into the late 70s, early 80s, every component, which this URT is a vital component of that, every component of what we have now has had great passion on both sides. This is no different. And you know, a number of us think that in 1996, when the voters passed Amendment 74, we interpret that as being that the 25 mills is for collection by the state and for use across the state to establish that sound constitutional footing.
No matter what the 25 mills
No matter
produces.
what the 25 mills produces. Some disagree with that. And as I mentioned, as we were deliberating, and said, well, you're going to end up in court. We have been in court with our school funding system. We are still today in court with our school funding system. We as a legislature have the responsibility to continue to evaluate what does adequacy mean, how does that fit in today's education standards, and we're going to continue to have a debate about that, the URT. I believe it will end up in court again at some point down the road, whether we did or did not take action.
You think another district or a district right now could make a claim if it's this inequity is
They could make a claim based on some of the findings in the Lakeview case and the master's report and the final ruling in Lakeview that released the state from the Lakeview case. There are some things there that I have concerns that where we are open to a lawsuit under the current statutory scheme that we have in place. But as I said, that every part of our funding system is open to that based on what a district feels like they are maybe being shortchanged. Sure.
Question for both of you, gentlemen. So obviously a $43 million injection in the short term here, this 10% premium increase. Is it too soon to already be looking out and seeing what you may have to put into the system the year after that or the year after that? Because it's not going to right itself in 1 year's time.
No, it's not too early at all to do that, and that's one of the goals of our task force. Is we need to make those changes and get those changes in place to lessen the amount that we'll have to put in later. And we put in specific, very rigid language in our legislative intent that the actions we took this week are going to be temporary if we don't get those long-term systemic reforms that need to be in place.
Representative Jett?
Yeah, and I just add that through this process, this is a very fluid thing, and I mean this is like the private option tax cuts back in the session. Every time that we try to do something, take a look at something, it almost seems, and Senator Key can speak to this more so than I can, but things are moving so quick in trying to put the pieces of the puzzle together. So I mean, it could very well be 6 months down the road we see something else we need to tweak, if you will. So.
And I'll have to say the process we went through, you know, folks say, well, 3-day session, you know, you have so many things that happen behind closed doors. Well, there were 3 to 4 weeks of work leading up to this, and we tried to be as inclusive as possible. I mean, we had the work group that was myself, Senator Rapert, Representative McClain, Representative Wren, but we would take that back to our respective caucuses, take it back to Senate and House leadership. So there was a lot of discussion on that. And then in the end, it was Senator Dismang that was able to cobble together those last votes we needed on the Senate side to get that appropriation passed.
All right, gentlemen, we got to wrap it up there. Thank you very much for being with us, Senator Johnny Key, Representative Joe Jett.
Thank you.
Thank you, Roby.
Appreciate you.
Yep. Thank you,
We're going to be
David.
back to wrap things up after a quick break from our sponsors. I'm Roby Brock alongside David Goins. You're watching Capitol View on Sunday morning on KARK.